right, folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with Dunger and Mecky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave.
Alrighty, a little delayed, and Mecky, live from the Sydney studios in Australia, broadcasting to you globally. Jump into the chat room at freedomslips.com while we're on the air right now. You can YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. YouTube, the show will be posted later. Check out ShinySideOut.net for show archives, notes, and links that we paste into the chat during the show. It's a plethora of information. With so many ways to listen to us, and Dave knows how many ways there are, it is difficult not to. And if you live in Kentucky, you should tune into FM, WZZR 101.3, or you can get an app. There's heaps of them. Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Speaker.com, iHeart, Live 365, and at home you can listen to Gray's Tabletop Digital Radio, or while driving around in a GM motor vehicle with a receive-enabled radio, or you can use our app. That's right, we've got our own app, okay?
Crowd goes wild.
And these are all to buy a CD of your favorite host. Of course it does. You can also buy a CD of your favorite hosts for the 2013 season. Actually, that'll be Shiny Side Out and Solaris as well. That'd be good if you could. And each CD costs $30. You can check out all the information on the station's website. The number to call in if you are in the United States of America is 347-688-2902. 347-688-2902. Or simply via Skype, you add Freedom Screen. Freedom Screen, one word. Solaris had once again a great show. Again, what a shock. Dave, how are you doing?
Steve Colburn was awesome.
Wasn't he, though?
Oh, I know. You know what? I think we're second prize to her guests. Honestly, she gets fantastic guests. She really does. Well, and I want to interview each one of them.
Having said that, I think we're getting pretty damn good guests ourselves.
Oh, I can't say that we aren't, Mecky.
I think we are.
I cannot say that.
I think we are. And there's a segue there. That's right. We've got a guest with us today. That's right.
We certainly do.
And it's a quacker, but you love it. I think you love him, and you love what we're going to ask him and what he's going to talk about. It's a long-time researcher. He's been in the game. I'd say longer than us. Probably more seriously involved than we are.
Indeed.
Dave and I, that is, and perfect for the Shiny Side Out, gentlemen and ladies.
Yes.
But before we do that, there's a couple of things. We are going to continue or conclude the financial show next week. That's going to be the conclusion finally after I think 6 or 7 cycles, and I do want you to think about the improvisation of the middle class. I want you to think about the middle class. If you're part of it, I want you to think about how you make ends meet, right? I want you to tell us how you're going, because I do believe there's a concerted attack on the middle class right now. That's my opinion. Okay, so that was one. Second thing, let's all keep our fingers crossed and send positive thoughts into the Middle East, because trust me, guys, they really need it right now, right? That thing is just going all kinds of sideways. And I have no idea where it's going to end up. But positive thought is what we need. Maybe even positive action. But it's not good. All right, Dave. So that's all I had to say.
That's okay. All I have to add is a little bit of news, just real quick, on Yellowstone. They have shut down one of the roads, the loop road that takes you past some geysers and some mud pools and things like that. Why did they shut it down? Well, they shut it down, the road, because it turned to cake batter, uncooked cake batter. They said it got so hot, but they said that it's a combination of the summer sun, and just geothermic stuff. Don't worry about that; it's all good. The summer sun, only 80 degrees Fahrenheit. 80 Fahrenheit.
Wasn't it Celsius?
No. 80 Fahrenheit. That's like, well, hang on, that's just like an autumn day. It's not even summer. Yeah. And so they're also saying, they're going to cut hikers now. Hikers can't hike through Yellowstone because, you might fall through crust into boiling water. That's interesting. That's good. For the first time ever, have they banned people hiking now in the park, thinking about Yellowstone being now cut off, one of the circuits being cut off by road. can service 20,000 people a year. Just thinking about the kind of lost revenue, and this is serious. I think it's serious. And I think they said, the guy who runs the park goes, it happens all the time. Stuff move around. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything's great. And then later on in the same discussion, he says, we've only ever closed the road once before, and it was just recently when we resurfaced those bits, but they've melted again. So we're going to try and reroute the road now. They're going to reroute the road.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, sure. So we'll see I think it's one of those evolving stories. And there's a lot of talk about it at the moment. I've put graphs out and everything showing the increase in geo activity. So anyway, we'll see. Look, I don't want it to go off. It'd be probably good for farming for a while. Once the Earth warms back up again.
Yeah, after 20 years of nuclear winter, it'll be okay, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
It's going to be just fine. For those who do survive it, you won't have to pay any tax and that mortgage goes bye-bye. So don't worry about it. It's fine. I have to say it in jest because, we're staring down something that's probably the worse than the Great Flood. So, good luck with that, whoever you are.
Yeah, no. If Yellowstone does erupt... we are looking at a global nuclear winter.
And there's even talk that it won't just erupt like a pop. It'll erupt for months. Months and months. It'll just keep going.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends how much energy is stored up there.
Exactly.
Again, I'm not a geologist. I can't tell you.
No.
But I do understand there's quite a bit. There's a lot of thermal energy coming out of there anyway, right? Old Faithful there. But certainly, no, that's no laughing matter. It is. I don't think it's an extinction level event necessarily, but it'll come pretty close to it.
Indeed.
But yeah, so let's hope it doesn't. I mean, there's enough stuff going on. I think we're doing a pretty fine job of wiping ourselves out. Yeah, that's
exactly.
I feel go on.
No, that's okay. The turmoil that you mentioned, Mickey, has almost look. Why would China? I had to ask one more question. Why would China partner with the US in the largest military exercise since World War II? They can't be the enemy then.
Well,
who is the enemy? Is this the
the thing is this. I mean, but make no mistake that the Nazis sent their troops or their officers to train in Russia, and the Russians. Sorry, no, I lied to you. The Russians sent their soldiers to Germany to train just prior to when it all fell apart in World War II there. But make no mistake, the Russians and Germans worked very closely together. So
so I'm in the wrong wrong field now. Okay. I was staring at the wrong way. Maybe, thank you for taking the rose-colored glasses off it.
Yeah, no, just because people work together doesn't mean they're going to be working together going forward. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yes.
You look at the scientists. The scientists have been withdrawn, right? No, the scientists no longer work together. That's a problem. Anyway, look. Right. Having said that, because we do have an awesome guest here.
We do.
And I will try to pronounce the name correctly. Ole Dammegard. Ole Dammegard, is that correct? I hope it is. And now he is awesome. I have to say, more than 30 years he's been doing this. I've read in his bio as well. I'll let Dave do the proper introductions. But one thing that impressed me is that he went on a bicycle trip, and then he attempted to smuggle people out of Iran, and that's the kind of guy he is. This is astonishing stuff, and we're very lucky, in my opinion, to have him here. He's been on all kinds of other radio stations. It's been. Remember that we had Carrie here a little while ago. But sorry, Dave, you want to do the proper introductions? Because I just hope I did the name justice there.
Yeah. Ole Dammegard is our guest for today. And he laughs because I can't even say it right. We're Australian. We have no clue. You should have heard my French. It was terrible. Ole is a researcher. He's an author. 30 years, as Mickey said, 30 years researching. He's spoken at the Bilderberg conference, and that is just that's the status of the fellow that we have on. He's researched everything, the biggest murder mysteries, the century's biggest ones. He's looked at everything. I mean, I don't think that I can do him any justice. I think we need to get him in. Meki, what do you think? Ole, are you with us?
I sure am.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out.
Thank you so much, David.
We ask this of all of our guests, yeah? Because not all the people that we get on our show normally have an ordinary life, for whatever that means, and then suddenly they do a 90-degree turn and end up doing whatever it is and excelling at it, and then we end up interviewing them. So it's not something that they didn't wake up one day, you know, when they were a child, like everyone else, you know, I want to go into space, I want to be a fireman or a policeman. They say that they just had some job somewhere and then something happened in their life that turned them around. Tell us about yourself.
Do you know what you're describing is actually the story of our lives? I think that it's almost like we live our life and then something happens, an accident or trauma or what we think is an absolute horrible thing that happens to us, and that makes us change the route of our life, and we go into a totally new road, and then it's almost like a big circle that can take years and years and years until we come back to more or less the same point as where we started, but on a much higher level. And so what happened to me was, I don't think there was any specific thing that happened. It was, I was born in Denmark. I grew up there in a family that was very much involved in the resistance movement against the Nazi occupation during the Second World War. And my dad was in the resistance movement. My granddad was in jail for helping Jews smuggle them to Sweden, and so on. So I grew up with all these stories about how important it is to stand up for what is true and right, even though it might be shit scary. Mm-hmm. And then when I was a kid, we moved to Sweden, and one of the first jobs I got once I got there was I started working as a journalist. And this took me out on a road or some kind of life education when it comes to being able to filter bullshit. I'm sorry for the language, but that is what we're fed so many times. Yeah. These lies that are being pumped upon us from official sources. And I think what I learned as a journalist was to listen to what people were avoiding to answer, and also to start listening between the lines of what people were serving as well. I'm now talking about official sources because they are the ones that really pump us with a lot of totally useless information that is all the time guided by them, you know, with and most journalists just copy whatever is told to them. They will just copy it without questioning it. I would do the total opposite thing. I would try to look for whatever it is that I'm not saying that all the time that there's a hidden agenda or so, but very often also on a small local scale, we're being pulled and around, you know, and manipulated with, and most people are not even aware of it. Then in the early 1980s, I got almost obsessed about the JFK assassination, trying to find out what actually happened. This was way, way before the JFK movie and so on, so there were very few people. I was the only one I knew that was interested in this, but it was just so obvious for me from day one that we were being totally lied to, that this official story made no sense at all. And I mean, this is 50 years down the road, and we're still being pumped with the same story, that it was the work of a lone crazy guy, instead of all this tons and tons of evidence that has come forward showing a totally different picture. And then I think I read a couple of 100 books, everything I could get hold of. I looked at all the documentaries, everything I could, and that got me into a road where I started looking into the Robert Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Abraham Lincoln, you name it. And after a while, it was almost like I could see that it was like a template being used, not the way it was carried out all the time, but the way it was covered up, the way they put in their own investigation to just shut everything down and the only thing the investigation was doing, that they went that way, they went that way, they went that way, everything to stop anyone from getting close to the truth. And the real truth that I found after many, many years was that these were inside jobs and they were actually connected. That this group that I think we're going to talk quite a lot about today, that I call the global elite, or they call themselves that. I call them the minority because they're a super tiny little group when you compare to the 7 billion of us. And what they have used also over the years is the same team of assassins. And this I've been able to prove quite clearly, that this group of assassins is almost like a red thread that connects so many of these dots. And I just want to say, you said before you mentioned the word paranoid. Paranoid, actually, I was told this by an MI6 agent. I'm not sure if it's true, but this is what he said. Paranoid is being totally misused, that word, because the real sense of the word is that it's the ability to connect dots and events that no one else can see are connected.
Wow.
So in that respect, I feel proud to say I'm paranoid, because I found a lot of things that apparently not a lot of other people have seen. So I feel this is also why I stepped forward and doing my absolute utmost since a couple of years on radio shows, I don't know how many I've been on, to show the templates, how they're carried out, why they do all these false flag operations, and also by exposing these templates then make normal people aware of it so that we can defuse them before they even happen.
Wow, that's awesome. Let me just say straight away that we're privileged to have you on the show, honestly, and I didn't say that in the opening, and I really should have.
Thank you.
The chat room is full of appreciation for your work, and everyone's hanging in there. I know that our greater audience at the moment is certainly in the US, and they it's quite late for them, and I know they're hanging on, so we're going to ask some tremendous questions coming up. If you, because we're going through Live 365, if you have to use an expletive, let's just call it BS. Let's just be careful. Now, paranoid. We were talking off air right before the show, because we do that, and I have to say, Meki and I, Eki's always had the expression. Meki, do you want to say it?
Which one? The paranoia expression?
Yeah,
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. That's right. Look, and that's the truth, right?
Yeah. You're not paranoid if they're really after you. So a bit of problem there with Meki's audio.
I mean,
yep.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, we can now. You're okay.
I'm okay?
Yes.
Okay. No, look, I understand, though, that you have first-hand experience of actually them. Let's call them them for now. And there's this, of course, you're quite right. It is a tiny minority, which is why the control structure, Dave and I believe, is pyramidal in nature. Boxes within boxes where one hand, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and the people at the top, the very tiny minority, the elite that you spoke of, they're the only ones that have the full picture. So just on that, though, what were your experiences that you, in your researches, came across that I guess put your life in jeopardy, where you saw people's life being put in jeopardy? I mean, this is real stuff, and this is the most important message for other researchers out there that you could give. I mean, you've come face to face with this, haven't you?
I have. I tell you, when I started, it was before the internet really took off. So after the internet has become this incredible, like a sword working both ways for the elite, but also against them. Before we had this ability to spread information so fast and so quick to all corners of the world, it was a very scary road to be one of the few that were really digging into the truth, because at that point it was so easy to get rid of anyone. You know, if you knew too much, boom, car accident, suicide, you name it. I've tracked down so many people who have died in very mysterious ways. And once, like I said, I was looking very much into these international assassinations, mostly in the States. And then the Swedish Prime Minister, Olof Palme, was shot down in the streets of Stockholm in 1986. And to start with, I thought that was it was a tragedy, but it was. I thought the Swedish police was somebody you could totally trust, and that I had grown up in a country where there was no corruption, where everything was perfect, and so I was sure that the police would get the guy within maybe a few months or something like that. But then the years started passing, and I started seeing the exact same template, the exact same bullet point list almost that were being used in the assassination of JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and so on. And it just blew me away, because I thought, how is it possible that a Swedish assassination can follow the exact same template as in the other countries? So I started, I said, okay, since I could see in history what had happened in the other cases, I started, okay, if they follow the same template, then this is the next thing that will happen in Sweden. I can't remember what it was. It was that the investigation would come forward with some kind of blah, blah, blah. So I said, if they follow the bullet point list, boom, this is what is going to happen. And sure enough, within a few weeks, that was exactly what we were being presented. And that freaked me out, because I thought, how is this possible? I mean, we're here in tiny little Sweden with a national murder, a national trauma that we're trying to solve. And then it follows the exact same template. So from that point on, I thought, how can they follow the same template if they're not connected? Meaning that I need to look at this from a higher level. And so I started digging into this from a totally different point of view. I also met David Icke in the late 80s, and it was mind-blowing for me that was the first time I got sort of an image of the upper part of the power pyramid. Up until then, I had only been down in the lower parts, not understanding how on earth these things could be connected. But it's just like Meki says, that everything in this world of conspiracies and the power structure that they've been built up is totally compartmentalized, totally on a need-to-know basis, so that every single person in this power pyramid, until you get to the very, very high up there, have no idea whose agenda they're serving. They just do their little part and think that they're doing a good thing, most of them. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I spent almost 12 years in Sweden. Really, I quit my job. I quit my job as a journalist. I went to Stockholm. I moved to Stockholm to be as close as possible to the events and try to find out what happened. So in the long run, I tracked down assassins. I tracked down foreign agents in Sweden. I was part of a small little group of what were called the private investigators. It was like ordinary people, but very, very concerned and saddened by what had happened to Sweden, because it was just like, actually, it was, in my opinion, a coup d'etat, but done in slow motion. That is why my book also is called Coup d'etat in slow motion. Mm-hmm. It was a coup d'etat, but done in a way so that the population would not notice what had actually happened. So it goes very, very slowly. But then over the years, a few years down the line, the whole country has totally changed before and after the shots. And no one has any idea what happened. Anyway, so in the end, the deeper in I dug, I very early discovered that there are only two ways to deal with a thing like this if you want to continue or stay alive. You know, either you need to get the spotlight on you big time to get some kind of protection from being in the spotlight, in the public eye. And at that point, I was Mr. Absolute No One. So that wasn't an option at all. So the only thing I could choose from was to go under the radar, go stealth and very discreet. So I tried to be as discreet as possible. At the same time, looking up all the different experts I could, interviewing them without them really understanding who I was and so on. And
did that give you any advantage?
Well, I'm still alive, so that's a good advantage. Because two of my friends died on very strange circumstances, very tragic. And at the same time, I also had a visit in my home and which scared me because these are violent people. They have a very brutal way of dealing with what they see as problems. So after that, I just felt it's not worth it. If I don't want to become a part of statistics, and so I decided to leave Sweden after that visit I had, and so I moved to Spain, and we've been here now for almost 15 years. So I would, when it comes to you asking about paranoia, there's a lot of people being paranoid for no reason, I would say. Nowadays, we're talking millions that are looking into these conspiracies. So just because you are yet another one who knows quite a lot about these things, that doesn't make you a target. It's when you know specific information and very deep type of information, that is when you become a threat to them, because the only thing they fear is the truth. So, well, paranoid or not paranoid, I would say there's a very good reason to feel paranoid, because this elite few have been working for decades, actually centuries, to centralize the power to fewer and fewer and fewer. And at this point, they are in charge of more or less the whole show, at least in the public eye, what we're being served. But without us, the bit. Oh, sorry, David.
No. Please go on. I don't want to interrupt you. Please go on.
No, it's just the sound is a little bit out of sync. So please, whatever question, please tell.
You just mentioned something that Dave and I have been talking about for a long time. In fact, since this show started, and before that, we also did our own research separately. But you said something very interesting, and we are of the same opinion as you, that this has been going on for a very, very long time, centuries, in fact. Where we've seen I guess, a centralization of the power structure, a deliberate effort to render the larger population either ignorant or stupid or somehow impaired, through chemicals, through the food that we eat, through media entertainment. Now, I don't want to ask you quite yet about the end game, but when you say that these things have been going for centuries, do you think, and I really just want your opinion, do you think this is done by the same families, by the same bloodline, let's call them dynasties, or do you think it is possible, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you think it's possible that the same individuals have been in fact involved for quite a long time?
I don't see that there's a difference between what you said, the different options. Yes, these families have been working very hard on this for centuries to centralize the power to fewer and fewer. I mean, we're talking... if you look at the power pyramid, the global structure of this force that is behind so much of this darkness and all these atrocities and so on, I've only gone up to a certain level, because this area is so massive, and everyone that really does this seriously has to focus on one area. I've focused on the street level, more or less, when it comes to these assassinations, to track down who did it, how did they carry it out, who were the assassins, how did they fly in and out, how was it financed, and so on. And then also what I've been very much looking into is the power structure, but up to the level of where the Bilderberg Group is, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Committee of 300, that level. Then that is absolutely not the top of the pyramid. But that part I leave to other people who know more about it. I mean, there's some claims that it's the Jesuits, the Illuminati, that they're aliens and satanic forces. I do not know. I keep to my part, and the rest I leave to other people who are more skilled in that area.
Understood. I had a question. You've mentioned the Kennedys a couple of times, and you made reference to car accidents, convenient car accidents, like one off a bridge. They don't like the Kennedys at all, this group, do they?
Well, they did to start with. I mean, Kennedy was fine. In the early 1960s, he was a bit of a playboy, but still working with quite actively together with his brother Bobby. And his father was very, very ambitious, connected to the Chicago mob. And so when it came to a point where he got a chance to become the next president, his father took help of the Chicago mob and got the final, the votes that really made the difference through the mob, because it was the closest race ever between Kennedy and Richard Nixon. I think it was only 100,000 votes that made it. Then once he got into power, John Kennedy was, flamboyant, playboyish type, very into glamour and women and these things. And there was this whole boom of new optimism in the States. The whole thing, the whole country was just lifting in this high spirit. And at the same time, he was quite easily maneuvered by the power elite behind them, behind this structure. But then came the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis, where it came to a point where Khrushchev, the leader of former Soviet Union, sent a ship loaded with missiles towards Cuba. This was detected by the military intelligence, and it came to a point that is now known as the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the whole military-industrial complex, the NSA and CIA, everybody was behind Kennedy, trying to push him in to start the Third World War. And people who were there said that he was symbolically sitting with a finger on the button that could start the whole nuclear holocaust. And he was sitting with tears in his eyes, just saying, "No, I refuse to be the one who does this to the world." After that, I think it was almost like he had like a personal, not revelation, but like a massive sort of insight of the level of madness that's involved in this power game. And he just said, from this point on, I'm going to do what I can to stop this. And suddenly, from being a easily maneuvered playboy, he became this very, very powerful individual who just said, we are going to make a change. And so suddenly he turned against the mob. He put his brother Bobby Kennedy as the Attorney General, and starting like a witch hunt of the mob. Within a year, I think it went up with 700% the verdicts against the mob. So they were freaking out, because up until then, the chief of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, he had totally, due to blackmail from the mob, he had totally refused to acknowledge that the mob even existed. And this is also why they changed the name. Once he couldn't deny it anymore, they started calling it Cosa Nostra. Because he said, no, it's not the mob, it's a totally different thing. But anyway, Bobby went for that. And at the same time, JFK said, we're going to crush the CIA into 1,000 pieces. He knocked out some of the top holy cows in the CIA, one of them being Allen Dulles, very, very central in Operation Paperclip, that was exporting very hardened Nazis from Nazi Germany after the end of the Second World War, and importing them into the States and South America and so on. And he was also very central in the whole financing of the Hitler war machine, because at this point, both world wars, if you look into world history, which I think is extremely important to go into really a greater understanding of how this whole thing was pulled off, by who financed these wars and so on, because then once you start getting into great detail, you will see that it's actually the same force that is still in action to this very day. They've just changed the front face of this very, very brutal war machine, but it's still the same structure, still the same families, still the same, many times the same names as well. One of the main financiers to Adolf Hitler, not the guy who paid him from his own pocket, but who was funneling the funds to Adolf Hitler and into the chemical giant called E.G. Farben, was actually Prescott Bush, who was George Bush Sr.'s father. And Alan Dulles was, together with his brother, was lawyers working for and helping Adolf Hitler and so on. So these people that are later very central in the JFK assassination, the building up of the CIA, the whole power structure behind the Vietnam War and so many other atrocities over the decades are the same people, the actual same families, same people. And they just followed the same agenda. And I would dare to say that today what is called the New World Order, I would call it the Fourth Reich. It is the exact same agenda. And you can see the parallels from Nazi Germany and then under Obama, what is happening. They follow exactly the same steps. The Reichstag fire, 9/11. You have Vaterlandssecurität, that is Homeland Security. You got the Patriot Act. You got all of these things. And Hitlerjugend, now Obama is building his own Yes We Can troops. It's following the same. And the whole idea with this is to centralize the power to an elite few, to create a one world fascist state.
Yes, sir.
Where the one world army to control us, not to defend us. One world microchip population, totally controlled, and I'm very sorry to say depopulated. To there are different theories, but a lot of us are not supposed to be here in the future if they can decide. And also a one world digital currency, very important for them that it's digital, because once you don't have the normal coins and notes, if you can't pay, there's a problem with your credit card, today you can just pull out coins of your pocket. Once those are gone, the guy, whoever is in charge of the computer that controls your chip or your card, can just turn you off. Mm-hmm. And once you're turned off, you're out. You're out of the game.
Exactly.
This is incredible. Sorry, Paul, I've been nodding.
We're both vigorously nodding.
If I nod any harder, my head is going to come off. Everything you're saying, Ole, everything you're saying resonates both with Dave and I. And this, the key thing here is this, and this is for our listeners, guys. You can look all the things Ole has said for yourselves, but the key thing is this: everybody that we've brought you on this show, everybody that talks to Freedom Slips, any other researcher out there, comes in the end to the same conclusions. That's because that's the truth. I'm afraid to say it's what's actually happening. We're not making this up. Ole is not making this up. This is hard research on his part. Okay, this is the reality of it. I know it's scary. I know it is. But look, Ole. I was just nodding. My video is off, but I can tell you, it is amazing that you draw the bow here as well. And I agree with you 100% that in fact the Nazis did not lose World War II. They just moved country. It's just went to America. Do you see though an active, I guess, undertaking to, I think, make the American, especially the American public, I guess, stupid? I mean, stupefy them with food and media. Do you think that's a deliberate effort?
Yeah, big time. I mean, once again, the only thing this elite few fears is the truth and to be found out. And they have been working through hidden networks and Freemasonry and in the dark as a hidden world government in the background. And they do everything to dupe the population, and whatever methods they can use to shut us down or to keep us asleep, they use it. They pump us with a lot through media. They get to us through food, through the air with chemtrails, through the water with fluoride. I mean, they're doing everything they can to avoid us finding out about them.
Meki is nodding. I'm nodding. We see it today, like Rome and the spectacle of throwing people to the lions, massacres. We see it like that, and it's a distraction. It keeps your brain off what's going on, and you mentioned all the chemical methods as well. We even looked into how deja vu was tested by chemical companies to be chemically triggered and chemically turned off because they wouldn't want that to happen. Do you mentioned so many things in when you spoke last, and you mentioned the truth movement. You started to talk about false flags, which we'll get to a bit later on. You've mentioned what could be described as the G7 hit team. Yeah, and also the New World Order. Let's take it back to we've spoken about the Truth Movement, about how this is building, and it's only getting stronger, and there's more people because of the internet. I'm connecting what you've put together. The internet is drawing more people together. We're able to disseminate this information really quickly. But if you noticed what Facebook is now doing, they're actually doing social experiments on us by putting people's comments in and making negative comments to see how we react to it all. The depopulation agenda, of course, which we'll get to in a second. It's so difficult for us three and our listeners, of course. We've got 1 foot on this stepping stone. We know, or we're already standing on it. There's a lot of people that aren't anywhere near us in their day-to-day lives, living inside the box that's constructed for them to live within. We look at the Kardashians as being distractions. That the whole element of the mainstream media is derived purely for that reason and that reason alone. From what we've seen, the depopulation agenda is with the intent to control us more effectively in the long run. And as you mentioned before, with the being able to have a digital currency, a one world government, as we see, the militarization of the police systems, just being given this equipment that looks like it should be in Iraq. Tell me more about that, about the depopulation agenda and how it all fits together.
They see us, when I say they, we're talking about this elite. I can go into great detail who they are on to the level that I've looked into it. But they see the world as a company, I would call it, like a corporation, and not like countries. They don't see a separate country. They see the world. And what they do is they rationalize the whole thing. They want to get rid of everything unnecessary, and they want to get rid of everything that they want to have just a few of us as slaves, more or less, so that they can easily control us. And at the moment, we're too many for them. There's no reason, in their point of view, for us, a lot of us, to be here. So they just try to eliminate us, and they do it through these very, very awful vaccines. I cannot emphasize enough how dangerous these vaccines are. So please do not give them to your children or yourself, because they are absolutely lethal, and they're designed to be lethal. They're not, you won't be able to see the effects right away. They're made so that it will be like a series. You need a certain amount of them, and then the combination of all these vaccines will in the end just more or less explode inside your body, so that you will not be able to track it back to the vaccines. You will get all these weird symptoms, all these many strange letter combination, HDAD, whatever, many of these can be tracked right back to these vaccines. And I forgot the question now, but they are trying to get to us, to depopulate us through GMO, through the food with GMOs. They're trying to destroy nature. I mean, I don't get it. The mentality behind this group, I do not understand at all. It really is such a sick mind, because they're just into death and destruction on all levels, and I don't understand. But I was on Winnie Eastwood's show a while ago, and we were talking about this, and he said, but the only reason you don't understand it is not because you yourself are not a pathological murderer, because if you were, it would make total sense. I don't know. It's a big mystery to me why they don't, why they're never fulfilled. Why this incredible urge and desire for more and more power. But it's almost like bulimia, people that just continue eating. They're full, but they continue eating until they explode, more or less.
It's tough. So, you know what's tough about it is because, if you have $1 billion, And there's a lot of billionaires on the planet, but if you have $1 billion, you'd find it actually hard to spend it. There isn't any more avenues to be able to spend money of that kind. So from that point on, it's almost like you said, it's a disease that they have, that they need to still accumulate more, and yet that's impossible to get rid of it. It is, Mackie, right?
It is. No, look, it is greed is a disease. We've done some research into the causes, Ole, as to why this depopulation is necessary, and we couldn't really come up with anything from economic point of view. I mean, it doesn't make any sense if you look at it like a normal human being. These are not normal human beings, right? These are not normal people like you and I. Most people just want to get along. These people are looking at us like cattle. You're right, like a corporation.
They don't care.
No,
We're
not
nothing.
at all. Yeah, so we thought maybe the reasoning has to go beyond this into the spiritual. So we looked at that, and I don't want to go into the whole thing, but to cut it short, we thought it is possible. Not saying it is, just it's possible that as a human race we come up to an event, okay, which some people call the ascension or whatever. It doesn't really matter, and it's a purely numbers-driven game. If there are enough of us, then all of a sudden we will have a group mind explosion and we will ascend. That's just a theory, of course. And the elite, in order to stop that, needs to reduce our numbers. That's why there have always been wars, and that's why they're now really trying to bring about the depopulation, because I think we are reaching critical mass. But that's just one potential explanation. So because it doesn't make any sense as to why you would want to commit mass murder on this scale,
They call us useless eaters. I mean, that's the poetic way Henry Kissinger has described us. So I don't know. I don't get it. But maybe it's like you say that they got all the power, they got all the money, they can't use it, and still they're so not fulfilled inside because they're totally lacking spirituality. I think they got this massive big black hole inside them that can never be filled up, and I think only by them waking up, that's the way of healing it. That's also why I end most interviews with a prayer. I can, if it's okay, I'll just do it now.
Sure.
And the prayer goes like this: May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light. Because I feel that it's only by healing them as well that we can stop this madness. If they don't get healed, they will continue. So we need to really take care of them as well.
You're right.
Do you know we've got 10 minutes until the top of the hour break. I want to say, is it just me, or are we seeing an escalation in false flag events?
Absolutely, they're going mad. I think, but this is the positive thing, because so many people are waking up, and this group is so small, and they're terrified of being found out. And so what they're trying to use these false flag operations is to get us into the corral in as fast as possible before enough of us wake up. And that is why it's getting to a ridiculous state now. It's so sloppy, so carelessly done. So, now the agenda that had leaked out is scare the weak. They have like a mass shooting per week to keep us distracted, to keep us in fear, to keep us in this. And you will see it's on a very static, it's more or less only in the States, because that is where the population is armed. And with these false flag operations, they're trying to get the reaction from the public. They secretly create a problem to get an emotional reaction from the public so that they can push forward their agenda. And when it comes to mass shooting, their agenda is to de-arm the population, to get the population to give up the arms. And once that's done, they can just take over. If you study history again, this has been done before, but then the names were not Obama, it was Mao Zedong, it was Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini. These type of people have done exactly the same thing before. So I'm totally against violence. I'm not here to spread fear or hate or anger in any way. I still say, though, do not give up your arms, because that will totally put the power in their hands. I'm saying don't use them, but don't give them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You said something earlier that you found in your research that the same group of assassins or killer elite, let's call them, are behind most of the assassinations. We've done some research into some mass shootings, specifically one here in Australia, the Port Arthur shooting, which brought about the gun control. Now, I saw an analysis that was done by an ex-military guy, and he said it's impossible for a normal guy, like for Brian, for example, to kill with that efficiency. He said, the military guy, and the report said, there are only maybe 4 or 5 guys in the world that can shoot like this under those circumstances. Did you have an opinion on this by any chance?
Yeah, totally. I mean, these false flag operations are false flag events. More or less all of them are staged events, not real events. And many of them are carried out by actors nowadays. They're not even real events. They're just being like a film set, and they even use the same actors. And it's really sloppy, really low quality at this point. And in the States, like I said, they use actors from, well, you can go and sign up for yourself if you want, the crisisactors.org and so on. So people that are blown up in one false flag, suddenly they're alive in the next one, giving interviews and so on. Very, very sloppy, very sloppy. But when the real events, I haven't looked into the Port Arthur one, but when the efficiency is that high, just like in Norway as well, when there was this mass shooting on this island, it does not add up at all, the efficiency of the hit rate. You go around, and like in Norway, it was he had a hit rate with deadly force of 86% or something like that. That is unreal. It's impossible. Moving targets, all of these. So most of the times when they actually commit a massacre like that, you have multiple shooters, and also you have the forensic team that goes in after the event. They clean up the site, so you won't find them. It won't make sense, the amount of gun shells and bullets and fired and so on. You will never find like bullets in the ground, for instance. They never dig them out, They just make bullet counts in the bodies of the normal crime scene. They would dig them up and everything would be presented. Here, not.
Yeah, well, I think we're all familiar with seeing the long sticks that they put into the bullet holes in the wall so they can get a trajectory for them as well. But that doesn't occur, especially with, and I hate to bring this up, but Sandy Hook, they just closed the site down and they demolished the building. There goes all the evidence.
But this is what people have to understand. We're dealing with super criminals. We're not dealing with people that wants the best for us. We are talking about criminals that are trying to cover up their act, that are trying to commit atrocities against us and just cover it up. If you did that, if you did something like that, you did something illegal in your house, and before the police came, you demolished the whole thing. What would that look like? Or you flew a so-called plane into a building, and then you said, well, it vaporized because of the heat, like with Pentagon, the whole plane, 2 6-ton engines just vaporized. It's like me saying, coming home and I've been drunk and lost the car somewhere, and I'm telling my wife or the insurance company, I lost the car, it vaporized. Would they believe you? Absolutely not. But this is what we're being fed.
Exactly.
Many of these things are no-brainers. They are absolute no-brainers, but it's because we're being pumped with the same version again and again, just like Goebbels, the propaganda minister of Hitler, said. The bigger the lie and the more you repeat it, the easier it is to get people to believe it.
Exactly.
And that's the way they do it. That's the way they carry it out.
You're absolutely right. That's in fact, that's the truth. That is the truth. The bigger the lie, the better. And because it is being pumped into us consistently and by experts, right? This is the key thing here, because the experts tell us, right? But even if the experts are contradicted, well, then, the people that contradicting are then, I guess, assassinated, not necessarily physically, but certainly their reputation is, right? They're focusing on things that have nothing to do with the actual testimony, but on the person. So you're right. Even if we bring evidence against what is being said by the experts, we still can't win in the public's eye. It's astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I always go to a crime scene with what I call Farmer Brown's logic. 1 + 1 = 2.
Mm-hmm.
It does not matter if you have a fancy robe and a long title saying Professor this and that and that, and you can do and describe the whole thing in 3D animation and come out with a result that is 37. If you try to force that down my throat saying it's 37, I know that you're lying, and you're lying for a reason. And if you start tracking down these lies, it will lead you to the end, which will be the real truth, and also expose why you're trying to cover it up. So just because people are being presented on screen, please also look into these so-called experts, how very often it's the same type of experts that are being interviewed in media. The same, you have the different events maybe that happen, but they bring out the same so-called experts that gives their opinion and so on. And it's every single time it's to cover it up. And like I say, normal Farmer Brown's logic, many of these things are no-brainers. You know, like Robert Kennedy, you have Sirhan, the guy that is still in prison for this assassination. The closest he was to Robert Kennedy when the shots were fired was 1.5 meters or a meter in front of him. Mm-hmm. He had a revolver with 8 bullets. Okay, up to 13 shots were fired. Bit of a question. We have a problem here, mate. Okay, and so, but of course, Robert Kennedy was hit all the time straight from the front, where Sirhan was. No, from the back and to the right. We have a problem again. So normal Farmer Brown logic would say, who was standing behind him and to the right? You don't have to be super clever to understand that that was the thing, how it was carried out. Mm-hmm. And then when, especially the last head wound was so close that the barrel was up against his skull when it was fired. I mean, the assassin was behind him to the right. So without being super intelligent, let's just move it to the next level. There was a second shooter and he was behind him to the right. And then let's move forward that way. But no. Almost 50 years down the road, we're still being fed the same story, and most people are still believing it. Go figure. It for me, it's unreal, and I think there are no excuses anymore for people to be asleep, for none of us to be asleep, because every day we're asleep, people are getting hurt. Innocent people are getting hurt in innocent countries, in absolute awful wars that have no reason to exist at all. They're just being carried out for the greed of these elite few.
That's a perfect end point for this half of the show. We'll take a short break. Everyone, please push the donate button and we'll see you at the end of this short break. Hold on tight.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mecky Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio, I hope you did what I asked you to do before the break, and that was push the donate button. It's on the left in the chat. Please go to freedomslips.com and do that for us, please. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. Yes, help support that's Mecky and I, our airtime. I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners we have, and they do grow every single week, and our followers on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube keep going up and up and up, and we appreciate it very much. And those people who do decide to contact me or Mecky, we get back to you as soon as we can. So if you have a question or you want like a guest, let us know. That'd be awesome. Now, we are halfway through show number 124, or as Mecky says, 4 and 20 and 100. I don't know what era, Mecky. Mecky, what era are you in? That is such an awesome way of putting it.
It just makes it easier to count. Trust me. If you try it yourselves, it also makes your brain work a little harder. Okay, just think sideways. Always think sideways. Okay, never linear. Sideways.
All right, I'm doing my best to think sideways. Do you know what we have? We have an awesome guest on the show today, Mecky. It's Ole Dammegard. I still have pronunciation issues. Mecky, it's everything we've ever spoken about, isn't it?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Ole has been doing research for 30 years. His path has led him pretty much not the same road, but he came to the same conclusions. He's found the same information. He's got more information in some areas, obviously, because he's focused in much more deeply on a lot of things that, well, frankly, neither Dave or I have time to do, which is awesome. So this new medium, the internet and internet radio, brings together every researcher that looks at this, and it just makes the information for you listeners out there that much more available. Okay, this is really what this is about, and Ole has done an unbelievable job. So for the last hour, I've just enjoyed the listening. To be honest with you, it's great because again, we are lucky enough to have like minds being attracted to this show. But let's not take up Ole's airtime here, please. No. Ole, you spoke about the Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, Club of Rome, and so forth. Now these are all power structures within the elite, but they are all ignorant, I guess, of the greater cause, I would imagine. Is that right?
Since I'm not a member myself, I can't answer that. But as far as I know,
right.
The steering committee in the Bilderberg group, for instance, the steering committee, they know the agenda big time. And people like Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, and so on, they're very, very aware of what's going on. The Swedish Foreign Minister, Carl Bildt, and so on, very, very aware. But on lower levels, I think it's the same old story that it's compartmentalized. So I think just because you're invited once or so to a Bilderberg meeting does not mean that you know the full agenda. Because the reason for this Bilderberg group that was created in 1954 in Hotel Bilderberg in Oosterbeek in Holland was it was created by Prince Bernhard and other members of this so-called elite with very Nazi roots, I would call them. And the idea was to invite handpicked people from all different countries so that you, with a small handful of people per country, can control that country more or less if you got hold of the exact correct people in the exact key positions. And we're talking within royal families, media, business, banking, military, the legal system, the educational system, and so on. All the main parts in a society that is needed, they will get in there, they will infiltrate and invite special members of this part of the society. And then if these people can be controlled and are loyal to their cause, then they become a steady member, a recurring member at these meetings. And it is only one way of stopping what is going on is by exposing these meetings, these groups, how they work in the background, how they have been working for decades without us knowing what is going on, and so on. And that is also why this year, when I was invited as one of the key speakers to Copenhagen, I was very happy to go there. And I humbly believe that I might have been part of defusing a false flag massacre there as well.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that. that's incredible. Can you give us a little detail there, or is that not safe? I mean, I don't want to pry.
No, I'd be happy to do it. It was I mentioned, I've done this for 30 years. I'm just an ordinary guy, but I've been very devoted to trying to find out what is going on, why it's going on, who's behind all of these things, for no personal gain other than I want a beautiful world for myself, my family, and all the rest of us to live in. Mm-hmm. And this small group is like a bully in a schoolyard, just terrorizing the whole neighborhood. And so I think it's extremely important to, by exposing this group, neutralize them in a non-violent way, but just by putting the spotlight right on them. That's also why my website is called lightonconspiracies.com. A very deliberate name, because just put the light there and let that do the rest. Anyway, with this Bilderberg meeting, I was not an invited speaker at the meeting, but outside the meeting, outside the hotel where this meeting was. Like I mentioned, the Bilderberg group was created in 1954, and they have been having secret meetings, very, very secret meetings every year since then, at least one. a year, and what they've done is they moved location every single time. So it's been very, very hard to find out where they're going to meet, who are going to be part of these meetings, and what agenda. But in my book, Coup d'etat in slow motion, the last 200 pages, it's almost 1,100 pages, this book. Sorry about that. Did not mean to make it heavy, but it's to be able to cover what is going on. It is not easy to make it short, so that's the one. But these 200 pages are just the membership lists, the location where they've been meeting, and the agenda that has leaked out from 54 all the way to 2014. And if you're not aware of this group, if you start looking through these membership lists, it's going to blow your mind, because then suddenly you can see that all these people that look like they have no connection whatsoever is actually part of the same club. And this is why when things like 9/11 happens, and right after it happened, before the buildings had before the dust had settled, the whole war on terror was started out of absolute nowhere. They knew about bin Laden, who they blamed for it, who had absolutely nothing to do with it. And not just within minutes after this war on terror was started or pronounced in the States, you had Tony Blair in England, apparently not connected, was supporting it. Bam, within minutes. And then the French Prime Minister. And then the Swedish Prime Minister from a neutral country, incredible, was supporting the whole thing, all within minutes. How is that possible? It's called insiders. They're inside, they're connected, and the whole agenda was prepared beforehand. So it goes like with these false flag operations, within minutes after they happen, you will be served their solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. They secretly create the problem to get the emotional reaction from you so that they can come with a solution. So just when the next mass shooting or whatever massacre, they're going to try and say that it's this crazy group or this crazy individual, wait for the solution. It will be served within 30 seconds, 2 minutes from the reporter, and blah, 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 gun control, blah, 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 go on war, blah, 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 blame it on the Muslims. It will be served to you like that, just straight pumped into your brain.
I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second. So we saw that with 9/11. 9/11, planes go fly into the building, and immediately they knew who did it.
Incredible.
Al-Qaeda. That's it.
Such good police work. Incredible.
Amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And of course, they were Saudis on the plane.
I know.
No one from Iraq.
And no one from Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that was the country they invaded. And by the way, they managed, they unfortunately, like, out of these 19, at least 9 of them survived. You know, bit of a bummer. But this is the whole thing with these things. So, but I have a background looking very deeply into false flag operations, finding out exactly how they're carried out and so on. And I've found as well templates, how they're being pulled off. I mean, they use old Roman templates because the old Romans really knew how to control and manipulate the population, how to carry out false flag operations, assassinations on a high level and so on. And they use the same templates to this very day. And we're buying it every single time. So this is why I put such a focus on exposing how they carry it out, so that the next time it happens, more and more people will be aware of it and say, whoa, I'm not buying that one. It's just like you see a magician and he's doing a trick like blah, 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 blah. You think, oh my God, it's pure magic. But then suddenly you discover he's actually doing it with the other hand behind his back. And once you see that, you won't buy the trick anymore. Mm-hmm. He tried to pull it off. No, I can see what you're doing, you know. And so by exposing these things, hopefully we can just diffuse them. And this is what I did in Denmark. If you want to, I can go into some details about what happened and so on.
Maggie?
Would you like that?
Only if it's safe for you. We don't want to put you in any danger.
But listen, David, I am in danger. So it's
absolutely.
the more I get out there, the safer I am. You know,
of
this is the thing with information. When you sit on it only on your shoulders, danger. When it's out there, then if something happens, it would just confirm whatever that person said. So that is the security by the spotlight.
That's true. That is very true. You're right. You become a martyr. So yeah, please.
Yeah, they fear martyrs because if somebody dies who has that status, they can't stop it. You know, it's like JFK, Martin Luther King. These people got wings the moment the shots were fired, and they became myths. I'm not saying anything negative about these people. Absolutely not. On the contrary. But what happens is that person becomes an untouchable and can become a symbol for resistance, which they fear, this elite group fear. Anyway, I was invited to this Bilderberg event, and this year, normally when they have these meetings, they normally pick out, secluded 5-star hotels where they can control all parameters, where they can control the entry, exit, all of that, so that no normal people can get anywhere close. No, it's not meant for the public to know that the meeting even takes place. And normally they come in black limos with tinted windows. I mean, just like in a mafia film, the same type of vehicles come, fium, fium, fium. Sometimes they fly them in helicopters and so on. And for decades, people were not aware of this group. But then through researchers like David Icke and Alex Jones and other people that have, Jim Tucker, Daniel Estulin and so on, who have focused so much of their life on exposing what is going on, more and more people have become aware, and a whole movement has been created more or less to expose these meetings. And the way that it's normally done is that the people find out where it's leaked out somehow, where the location is, and then normal people like myself go to these meetings and try to take photos of people coming in these limos, trying to expose who are the members and so on, and hopefully also get hold of whatever agenda that are being discussed and so on. Because it's like I said in the end of my book, Coup d'etat in Slow Motion, if you compare the agendas over the years from 54 and onwards, and then you compare it to what happened in the world the following year, the parallels are incredible. What it was discussed, I mean, they claim that there are no decisions taken, but I tell you they are. And whatever was discussed there and decision made, boom, you can see in the world follow like this. Wars are being created, wars are started, wars are stopped, political leaders are assassinated or taken out or chosen, financial crises are created, you name it, these people have their fingers in it. It's unreal once you get into the level of where they're part of, because they're just all over the place. And so up until 2012, this group had very successfully, at least they tried to totally deny their existence. Normally there was just a one-liner in the local newspaper that the Bilderberg group met this Wednesday or blah, 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 here and here, and that's it. But then more and more spotlight was aimed at them, and in 2013 they couldn't deny it anymore that this group actually existed. So what they did was that they hired a PR firm and went totally open instead, or open, whatever you want to call that, but saying, no, of course, we're not trying to hide that we exist. We're just a very nice group of mostly gentlemen who just likes to meet for a tea and a biscuit and have a nice chat. You know, what's the big deal? And in 2013, they met outside London in Watford, England. And instead of denying their existence, they invited the media suddenly. The media was invited into a corral, more or less, on a grassy open space, totally controlled by police that frisked them and everything, more or less escorted these truth seekers from the train station to this area. And the area was somewhere between half a kilometer and a kilometer away. So that you could see it in a distance, but there was absolutely no way you could get in there. No media was let in, no press, no nothing. So instead, you had the whole truth movement, and so in a controlled area, totally controlled by them. And then I also would like to mention that with these false flag operations, they use them most of the time to carry out their own agenda, to push forward their agenda that would not otherwise be accepted had it not been for whatever terror act that they created themselves. But also sometimes they use these false flags to divert the attention away from whatever is going on. And this year, 2013, just a few days before the Bilderberg meeting, do you remember what happened that just a week before? The so-called beheading in Woolwich, where the whole media, or a lot of journalists around the world, were saying, oh my God, this Bilderberg group, do they actually exist? We need to go there. And they were just about to pack their bags and start going to London when these two North African men is said to have seen a guy walk down the street in London with a T-shirt where it said, "Help for Heroes." And they said, oh my God, this is so awful. So they took their car, knocked him over, jumped out of the car with a cleaver and a knife, chopped the head off this soldier, pulled him out in the middle of the street, then waited for 25 minutes for the police to come, and then was shot down and taken away. But this whole thing was in media, pumped out like, oh my God, this awful, awful, awful atrocity has happened, blame it on the Muslims, blame it on the Muslims. So suddenly media was totally focused on that event. That was also complemented with another event in Paris, a similar event. They very often, if the effect has not been as they wanted it, they do a secondary false flag just to amplify whatever emotional effect they're trying to.
That's right.
Exactly, a multiplier. They have like normal staff meetings, and they go through the reaction and the effect of the operation. If it's not the way they wanted it, then they do a secondary and sometimes a third one. I have this from insiders, so I know it's true. Anyway, so the whole media was looking to the right, and the Bilderberg meeting was just disappeared in the horizon. But that was the first year, last year, that it was actually out in the open that they really exist and they're meeting and so on. So 2014, very early on, it leaked out that the meeting was going to be at the Marriott Hotel in Copenhagen, which I thought, once I looked into the location, I found it very odd, because this hotel is right in the center of Copenhagen, right by one of the main streets, or right by a big water canal, and so on. So very, very difficult to cover protection-wise, security-wise. So I thought it was very odd that they chose that one. But anyway, so I flew to Denmark from Spain. I was picked up by a friend at the airport, and I said, please, can we go to the hotel? This was the night before, there was about 12 hours before they was expected to arrive. The first members was expected to arrive and so on. So we drove there, and it was so odd, because normally at these locations you have like a strong feeling of police presence. You know, before these meetings you got bomb sniffing dogs, you got armed police, sometimes helicopters, you know, like you can really feel that something is going on here.
There's layers of security. Yeah.
Exactly. Because that is the time, if somebody wanted to do something stupid, that would be before the meeting themselves. It's not like once it's going on, they said, can I please bring my bag with bombs inside? You know, that's not the way it would be carried out. If there was a threat, you know, that would be placed, the explosives would be placed there beforehand and so on. Anyway, so we drive to the hotel, and I was expecting the normal type of activity. We come there, absolute zero. It was so odd, you know. I looked at the hotel. It's right on the brink of a water canal. It's like 200 meters wide, something like that. And on the other side of that, you got a main part of Copenhagen with thousands of windows, very, very bad when it comes to security things, because every single window could be a possible threat, with a Stinger missile, a bazooka, sniper, you name it. And the hotel is totally with glass facade, both front and back, so you can see in through the corridors and the staircases and so on. Very, very odd. And then, so it's the water canal, then the hotel, then you have one of the main streets. It's one of these, it's called a ring road, and that takes you around in Copenhagen. It's one of these ones. I mean, lots of traffic, once again, passing right in front of the entrance, meaning that every single vehicle that passes could be a possible threat. Again, hand grenade, drive-by shooting, throwing a whatever.
Yeah.
Then on the other side of the street, there's a big open gravel area, normally used as a parking lot. Not normal to find a big area, open area like that in central Copenhagen. I don't know if they torn down a building there before or something like that, but big open space. And this is normally used as a parking lot for the Danish police, because their headquarters are right on the other side of the parking lot. A big, massive building, the Danish police headquarters. So, and on the sides of this parking area and the side of the hotel are high buildings. From when you look in Denmark, I mean, they're not like New York, but high buildings just as high as the hotel. And there were insurance companies, banks, and so on around there. So when I came there, the only people I saw were two police officers, Danish police officers, standing to the side of the hotel, very not on alert, just walking around, talking, doing nothing. And at the same time, they started building like a concrete wall around the hotel, where they were going to put fence and keep out the truth movement, because the idea was to fence in the parking area, and that was where the truth movement was supposed to gather, controlled by the Danish police and so on. And they shut off the roads, the entry roads to this area, so that you could only come in through the back streets, sort of, in almost like into a corral like this. And when you continue in that direction from that was open, you in a very close distance, like only half a kilometer, so you got the train station, the main train station in Copenhagen. So many of the people that would come to protest or demonstrate would come with trains or so on. So that would be, it's a perfect spot when it comes to control the truth movement. But when you look at security-wise, absolutely sucks. So it's so odd, because I mean, this group has the highest, they've got access to the best in security, military advisors, all of these things. So why on earth would they choose this hotel? I found it very odd, so I started walking around, and we could walk all the way up to the building, look in through the windows. I saw people from InfoWars and so on. There was very few of us there. Very, very odd, since this was so close to the actual meeting. But one thing was that right in front of the entrance, there were three black limos, Mercedes, parked identical right outside the front, the entrance. One or two people there, but otherwise nothing. And these are the typical, odd, but it was almost like these cars were parked there because they stood there for at least an hour. I didn't see them drive away, so they were there for a long time. And it was almost like they were placed to say, yes, we are in here. You are right. We are in here. So I started walking around, checking out why on earth would they choose this hotel? They control and own so many hotels. So why on earth this one? There must be a reason. So I thought to myself, option one, a decoy. They will use this hotel to get the truth movement in this corral, and at the same time send in a few doubles into the hotel, like put on a Dick Cheney mask and get in there. When you look at these meetings, most photos are taken like on a distance from 200 meters or something like that. So it's so easy.
It's not like a rock concert, they're way away from them. Yeah.
they're way away. And then also, if you like put makeup and put a what do you call it, a wig on, anyone can pass as Queen Beatrix or something like that. Not difficult, or Henry Kissinger, because you only got like 2 seconds. Oh, it's Kissinger. You know, I saw him. He was like this. He had glasses on. Okay, Kissinger. Could be a double or stand-in, whatever. Very easy. So, and if it would be used as a decoy, then they would just get some cars in, some doubles in there, so that the truth movement outside would say, yeah, they're in there for sure, for sure. And then at the same time, this group would meet maybe at a castle, a military base, another 5-star hotel, or maybe even in another country, you know, just having a good laugh at us, and while they're meeting somewhere else. But then the more I looked around, I just got this eerie feeling, because there was something very strange about the whole location. And then, my God, it suddenly hit me. You know, since I know how they carry out these operations, what places, what buildings they choose, why they choose them, why they, choose a specific city or location or something. When I looked around, suddenly I just thought, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You know, if I thought the way they did, then this is the scenario that I saw in front of me.
Yes.
You get the whole truth movement in there, in this corral, controlled by Danish police, who are not aware of what is going on. They're put for security and so on, have no idea what's going on. You get a couple of thousand in there, in front of the hotel. You get some doubles into the hotel, you know, just so, yes, we're in there, yes, we're in there. But in general, the whole hotel is empty, but loaded with explosives, just like in Oklahoma City, just like in Norway, many other. This building, if it fits to the template, there will also, you will see in the insurance policy a week or 2 or 3 beforehand, suddenly the insurance policy will have been changed to include terror acts. Yeah, okay. And the reason why they've chosen this building, if it follows the template, is that there's some problem, maybe a constructional problem, maybe there's a crack in the foundation due to its being so close to the water, maybe there's fungus problems or asbestos, some major problem with that building that they own, and by blowing it up, blaming it on someone else, they will insure $1 billion in insurance policy, at the same time get the building demolished so they can build up a new one. You know, that's the way they do it normally. And so I get all these explosives inside. They will be directed straight forward so that the whole explosion will go right into the front and on top of the truth movement, not on the sides, because on the sides, these buildings, the more I looked at them, the company that were there, the insurance companies, the banks, are actually owned and indirectly controlled by the elite few. So the whole area was controlled by them, when you look at them also controlling key people in the police force. So the whole area was like a closed off area for a thing like this. Perfect, absolute perfect. So you get the explosives there, you get the truth movement in there, you place film teams in the different buildings, so you got all different angles covered. You get a film team down the street so that you can get a wide angle shot of the hotel with the side and the front of the hotel, the entrance, and the truth movement on the other side. Then what you need is action, because with these things, when you do a false flag operation, you are there to get a reaction from the public so that you can move forward with the solution. And so what I would do is explosives inside the hotel. I would have secondary explosives in the area where the truth movement is, some smoke bombs, some canister of fake blood, you know, could be placed inside the tubes of the fence and so on, so that it will just splash what looks like blood all over the place when these explosives goes off. Anyway, so I need action, because I need the feeling of a riot, because what the aim is to demonize the truth movement, okay? To blame it all on the truth movement. So I need this riot feeling. It's not enough with 13 people in a corner there. You can't get a riot with 13 people. So that is why they need a couple of thousand. And actually, when I was there, it was in the media. It says that a couple of thousand people had gathered there, but when I was there, at the most we were maybe 200. So where these numbers came from, you tell me. Anyway, so what I do is I start stirring the energy by sending in a team of provocateurs. Like, these provocateurs would just go in there. You only need a handful. They will suddenly start screaming, shouting, throwing things, you know, throwing rocks, maybe a few Molotov cocktails and stuff like that. Just get the whole thing going. And if that isn't enough, I send in a secondary team of provocateurs. These will be dressed in Danish police uniforms. And what they will do is they will arrest one or two people that are also part of the provocateur team, but look like truth seekers. And then they would drag them right in front of the fence, right in front of the whole crowd, you know, maybe beating them up a bit, and they would scream and shout. So the whole crowd would go wild, you know, let him go, let him go. And once that's going, you know, the shouting, the screaming, maybe the throwing of things and so on, you got the whole stage set. And then suddenly, boom, out goes, they blow out the whole front of the hotel that just goes right across the street, lands on top of the truth movement, blowing up people there. So you will have also with aerial photo through the helicopters that were there, you will get this scene of absolute death and destruction, you know, blown up bodies, smoke, all of that on the other side. And then pump it out in media. Look at this truth movement, this awful truth movement. Here they are saying that they seek to create a better world, to peace and harmony. And what do? They blow up and massacre this poor, innocent elite group that was just there to have a nice chat and did absolutely nothing. And then these images would be pumped out in media globally and used as to create a reaction so that they could justify banning all rights to demonstrate, banning all rights to protest, which they're actually trying to do now in Spain, banning the rights to gather in big groups, and also censor the internet, because it's all through the internet and through programs like this that this type of information is being spread. So in one go, they could just blow out the whole, they could hit globally very, very badly to this whole truth-seeking movement. So also, when you look at the way they carried out, normally what would happen then was also they would present a list of casualties, of dead people inside the hotel. But this would mostly be, names of people in the kitchen, cleaners, drivers, bodyguards, and maybe a few Bilderbergers, a few old ones that they don't need anymore or have problems with anyway, just to get credibility. So this would be the list that would be described or published. So when I saw that, I just felt, oh my God, either I'm paranoid, we're back to the word paranoid, or I'm onto something here. So what I did was I went straight home to my friend. I called up one of my friends. He's you can check him out on the internet, chiptatum.com. He's a he's a whistleblower now, but a former CIA deep cover agent for 25 years. He was one of the Night Stalker pilots, these black helicopters on the radar that goes in and carry out all types of odd and weird missions, exactly. He was a black op assassin for many years, and he was also the commander of a super secret hit team of assassins called Pegasus, directly under the control of George Bush Sr. And he's been part of carrying out 17 assassinations globally with this team, so not an amateur. He's also been part of setting up these false flag operations. He's been actively taking active part in some of them. And he's also the guy who's told me about these staff meetings, afterwards. Is the reaction the one we want? No, we need to go in and do a secondary one and so on. So he knows what he's talking about. I called him up. I said, listen, Chip, I got this really eerie feeling about this place. He said, please describe it. I described it just like I've done to you now. He said, so what is the protection on this water side? I said, there's absolutely nothing. He said, there's no military vessels, no divers in the water, no nothing. I said, zero. he kept asking me questions about the buildings, the whole thing, you know.
As you
I just
described
answered
it to us, yep.
As I described it. He said, this looks very, very fishy. He said, get out of there, because what you're describing is very, very plausible and very possible that this is what they want to carry out.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, thank you. Then I called Professor Jim Fetzer, who's a researcher for many, many years into 9/11, JFK. He's a world-known authority in these areas. He's a former Marine as well, and has looked into many false flag operations like Sandy Hook and the Boston bombing and so on. Mm-hmm. I called him, described the same thing. He said, my God, you have to be very aware that this could be the thing. And Chip also said, please be aware of that, fake parking meters that could have explosives inside, or parcels or wires in the gravel, these type of things, be aware. And he also warned me about strange sounds. Don't know what he meant by that, but anyway. So I also got in touch with a guy who's been some 24 years in different security forces and so on, described the whole thing. He said, my God, it sounds like you're just describing a setup like this. He asked how the escape routes, because this is one of the things that they focus very much on. I say it's so easy. It's just by one of the main streets. And once the explosions goes off, I mean, the whole focus will be on this area where the smoke and the explosions are. It's so easy for them to get away, being covered by that. So after I had confirmed my suspicion with these three heavyweights, I thought I need to do something. So what I did was I contacted a handful of radio stations internationally in New Zealand, the States, Canada, multiple in Europe, and so on. And what I did, I got the radio host to record the time and date when this was recorded. Mm-hmm. I described the whole thing. I described what I was afraid of that they were going to pull off. And just so if it happened, that it could be proved that this was out there before the explosion, and would totally show that this would be an inside job aimed at demonizing the truth movement.
Awesome.
But even more so, my intention was that if we can pump it out there, because I got all of them, they were so incredible, these people. They were so quick to get it out there. So within, I was doing this until 4 a.m. By then, it was all over the globe, that this was a possible setup. I'm not saying this is what was planned. I'm just saying that there was an awful lot of things that could fit into a template like this. So the next morning, I went there. I was one of the first there. And hold on, do you know what I found in the area where the truth movement was supposed to gather?
No.
I found a massive big pentagram, like 6 meters in diameter, made of train sleepers. There was actually 2 of them. The other one made from sellotape and some traffic cones, orange traffic cones. And in the middle, they put a barbecue. And for people who know the satanic meaning of this symbol, I mean, that is to put it inside the truth movement. It's like putting a swastika in a synagogue. Mm-hmm. I mean, the power of the symbolism is so incredible. And sometimes they also use a fire symbol right in the middle of the pentagram. And here there was a barbecue there. Mm. So could you imagine, with the aerial footage, you have the explosion, you've got all the dead bodies, smoke and all of this, the voiceover, demonizing the whole truth movement. And in the whole smoke and all, you've got this massive big pentagram. Can you see that image being pumped out there?
Yeah.
On the impact could have just been incredible, so destructive for all of us. So as soon as I saw it, I got a friend of mine to help me, and we just pulled the whole thing apart. Then later on, I was confronted by some, I must say, very odd people that claimed that I had destroyed their workshop of love. Okay, I said, what? No, they said that it was a star symbol. It was not a pentagram, but a star symbol, and that they had a workshop there for love. They were using the elite's own symbolism, but for love. And I said, listen, beautiful idea, but my God, the choice of symbol and the timing is awful. And so I got them to leave. Then the next day, when I was giving one of my speeches, this woman who was dressed in a purple big jacket with a green big hat, they came on a bicycle with a box in front with rainbow colors and a big flag where it said freedom. I mean, it looked like they came from a children's book or something like that, you know, a children's program. And while I was giving my speech, she was walking around me in circles with a goat horn in her hand, speaking in it. You know, it's very odd, people. So I don't know if it was just a coincidence with this symbol. I just know that the impact could have been incredible, very, very negative.
Well, do you know what? You've described something amazing, and it's been said before that if you can catch them out in their game, that they're paralyzed and unable to fulfill it. And I have to take my hat off to you for doing what you did in that area. Yeah.
No, my absolute pleasure. I'm just so grateful that no one got hurt and everything just went the way it did, because very few people came. You know, we were only a couple of hundred, and I was criticized by some that I might have scared them off, you know, that I had spread fear and so on. And I said, I'm very sorry if that's the way you see it, but what would you prefer, to get a bit of an uneasy feeling in the stomach or get your head blown off? You know, if I have spread some fear, I'm sorry about that. If I've been part of saving lives, I'm very proud of myself. So for me, there was no option, you know. And I would just say that this is not to polish my own glory. I'm just saying that if we can, just like you say, become aware of the signs. So I would really ask people to learn about these templates and then see how they're carried out. And also, one of the main ingredients that they use when they pull off these false flags are that there's an ongoing drill, a drill that is carried out at the exact same time with the exact same agenda. But this drill right in the middle suddenly goes live. And so people who are part of the drill have absolutely no idea that it's actually live. You know, like the 7/7 bombings, the police were standing outside the subway stations being part of the drill. The drill was that there were these set up explosives in the subway stations, fake ones, but they were actually real. So when people came out, you know, smoke and blood and guts everywhere, and they were crawling around, you know, the police didn't help them because they thought it's a drill, it's not real. And I know some police officers said, you know, we were just standing there saying, oh my God, my God, look at how they scream, and so authentic, you know, so realistic, not understanding that there were actually people dying right in front of them. So knowing that they carry out these drills, you will also notice that before the Boston bombing, many of these other mass shootings, in the local newspapers, there are little things saying, tomorrow there will be an anti-terrorist drill, or there will be a mass shooting drill in this school. If you see these things, or if you hear about them, go there, bring your cell phone, bring your mobile phone, start filming them while they're setting the whole thing up. Film them, make them aware that they are being observed, because they have been able to carry this out in the dark for such a long time. And they're not discreet many times. You know, before the Oklahoma City bomb, they came in with big black bomb trucks, you know, that was carrying the explosives, put it there, and then they disappeared. They're not, you know, they know that they can get away with it. So they're not... like if I was trying to pull a thing like that, we would really sort of like do our best. They do not. So go there, film them, and you will see also that many times it's set up like film sets. You will see the film crews, you will see lighting, you will see like makeup and costumes. All of these things will be on location. So film them, and if not for anything else, then film the site, you know. So if something happens, there will be perfect footage from before it happened that can be compared to after it happened.
That's
perfect,
the best advice.
As evidence.
Absolutely.
So put the light on them, you know, say that we see you, because as far as I know, up until now, up until this thing in Copenhagen, we've always been informed afterwards. Now there's been this shooting or then this. if we can turn it around so that we are there before they pull it off, so much better.
Exactly. Do you know, the Boston bombing was very interesting because the explosive used is the same that's used in Hollywood, the white smoke only explosive. It's pretty harmless in the right situation. We know that there were already military on the site, on the scene, and the drill was across the road at the main library. That was the drill that was announced, and a minute before the explosion there was a tweet or an SMS that went out at exactly the same time saying 1 minute, and then 1 minute exactly later the explosive happened. There's footage of the lady in front throwing something to the guy behind, who then clutches his knee and spreads the blood on his knee, on his leg. You know, we've seen the drink cups in the Boston bombing, for everyone who already knows this, who they splash about and then just sort of meander about the same spot. One guy even puts sunglasses on in the Boston bombing, and just stands around. Then he sits down, then he stands up, then he sits down and waits for people to arrive. We know that during 9/11 there was the drill across the continental US, and they moved planes around, and the drill was exactly that planes would be hijacked and flown into buildings. You're so right. Everyone, keep an eye out. Look in those papers for, don't worry about tomorrow, there's going to be a drill such and such. Little tiny article. The Men in Black movie said this probably the best. You'll see a little tiny story in the paper. We call it column 8 or column whatever it is. It's tiny, like one paragraph, yeah? And that one paragraph is going to have whatever it is. That's where the real news is. It's not in the propaganda news that we see out there.
Yeah, you're right. It's usually glossed over, and we have to make the connections, guys. That's our job. Mm-hmm. And I mean, not just Dave and me and but all of you, right? Anyone who's listening here needs to make the connections and inform yourself. Find other sources of information as well. But it's true, and sometimes they taunt us. Ola, I found there's a taunting pieces of information there. Sometimes even in the way that buildings are structured or built or the layout of street. Plans, Washington, for example, it's almost taunting us. Yeah, see, we're showing you something, but guess what? There's nothing you can do.
That's right.
It's sometimes I feel it's almost like a serial killer who he wants to play around with the police. Keep sending them messages or putting out signs or just because they think they're above us, that we're just useless eaters, no-brainers, and they can just do whatever they want. I would say, let's show them they cannot.
Let's catch them out at their game. Let's do
that.
Agree.
But at the same time, I can totally understand why they have been treating us like we were brain dead, because we have been. And I mean, it's incredible that it's taken such a long time for us to wake up. It is unreal. And I think all of us need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, am I in any way taking part of their agenda? What am I doing that could be part of this whole thing? And so many people, police officers, soldiers, people in banks, people who are throwing people out of their homes or installing surveillance equipment or working at the airports, with all these X-rays machines, all of them based on fake terror. I mean, all of these things are put into place on the basis of fake terror. As far I've done 30 years of research, I have not come across one real terrorist yet. I mean, the real terrorists are the same people again and again, and the ones carrying it out are people that have been trained, equipped, and put into action by the same group. In the States, FBI are the ones equipping them, training them every single time, backed up by the CIA and NSA and DIA and so on. It's just repeating itself. But with these mass shootings, it's like, it's like you're filming Rocky 18. They've done all of these ones. That now the sequel is just repeating itself, and they can't come up with new stories. So that is also why it's getting more and more sloppy and more badly thing, and with the same small group involved. So it's going to be easier and easier to spot them. And I would also say that the things that they're aiming at now to blame on, because they always need a patsy, a lone crazy guy. The reason for that is because crazy, because then there's no motive, and lone, because then there's no conspiracy behind it. He was alone and crazy, and that's why no motive, case closed. But
wow,
that goes also for groups and so on.
I have to thank you so much for being on the show. We have run out of time, but you know what? I think we have to have you on the show again. This is so awesome.
If you please do come back soon, please.
Yeah, anytime you want me. And can I just say,
awesome.
If people want to support me, please, there's donation buttons and newsletters and so on my side as well. That it's extremely appreciated.
We'll put the link on our side to your side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much.